All right. Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to the start of the new series on how to build an algo from start to finish using the NoNonsense Forex algo tester. I know there have been quite a few people looking forward to this, and it sucks it took me so long to make, but I wanted to be thorough and wanted to make sure I didn't give out bad information. I tested dozens, well, I would say more like hundreds of different combinations and individual tests to try to come up with what I think is a good starting point for you guys. So, something I don't think I've mentioned yet is that I actually took this entire algo and turned it into an EA that basically trades itself automatically. For the next year, at least, probably going to be 2, maybe even 3. It just kind of depends. I'm going to be running this on my Forex server 24/7, so I can kind of put my money where my mouth is. We want to see if this thing is actually going to work. The link is going to be down below in the description, and I'm actually doing it on 3 different broker accounts: Oanda, IC Markets, and Dukascopy. And that's more of just a long-term kind of experiment to see if the exact same settings on indicators vary a lot in between different brokers. It really shouldn't, but sometimes weekend candles pop up. There was that one weird, like half of a year for Dukascopy where it was just every weekend, almost every weekend, had Sunday candles, and that would really throw a wrench into things. So I'm just going to let it run for the next couple years, and I'm going to link the MyFXBook below, and you guys will be able to see it for yourself and see how it performs. So here's the thing. When I started working on this, I wanted to find a decent algo with about 30% return each year, using some of the good indicators, but not the great ones. Mainly because I want to give you guys a good starting point. Something that you can look at and say, okay, here's the target of what I need to beat. Here's a profitable algo, and I know I can make something better than this. The goal would just be for you guys to just keep making algos and attempt to beat your previous one. What I found out was that the more that I tested and the more algos I created, that not every algo in this process was a winner, even following the data set and rules that I kind of set for myself, especially when I wasn't going with the best indicators out there and strayed away from my A-list of indicators. I feel that there is no magic way to make an algo. There's no one-size-fits-all process. If you follow these steps, you're not guaranteed to have a winner, but your chances will be pretty good, and it's a great starting point. You will likely need to try multiple different combinations and passes to find out what works best. There are times when you need to look at the data, especially in close calls, and you're honestly just going to have to go with one. Sometimes you look at the data and they're so close and you just don't know how to pick that right one. Which one's going to be slightly better? Could this one be better with a little more tweaking? You just got to go with one and move forward. So, one thing you will probably notice as we go through this, and it might disappoint some of you, it's that not all of VP's rules are going to be followed in this video series. Now, that doesn't mean you can't use them. Feel free to add them into this process. The reason why I left these out was because I did it on purpose in order to make this algo easier for you guys for new people to read, as well as for you to beat. By adding these additional rules into the equation, it should be easier to lower your drawdown and increase your wins. So, the rules I did not observe for this video series. Number 1, prices within 1x ATR of the baseline. Not doing it. We are not following the bridge too far. no continuation entries, which is where a lot of your profit is typically going to come from. No one candle rule for either the C1 or the baseline. No pullback entry. No exit when the C1 gives an opposite signal. And finally, no trailing stop. I also want to let you guys know that in our Discord server that we made for the NoNonsense Forex algo tester and for like-minded people, is that there are other methods and ways of finding your algo listed in here. So one of them I'll just highlight real quick. If you go to confirmation, go to pinned messages, you'll see one pinned to the top from Regal Victory, and it is basically his thoughts on how to go for finding a C1. And it goes into pretty great detail with specific criteria that you really want to meet. And there's a couple of these floating around within the Discord. So feel free to join in and read up and try to find something that works for you. But you don't want to get stuck in that loop of just constantly trying to find something that beats what you have. The other thing is that this is not a, like I said, one-size-fits-all process. There are so many ways that you can modify this in order to make an algo, and I know that there are a handful of people that already do things a little bit differently and still make great algos. It depends on the data and how you want to interpret it. So, who is this video going to be for? It's really for veterans and new traders alike. Even if you have your own process, create great algos, and you're a profitable trader, give these videos a shot. It never hurts to learn something new or to get a new perspective on things. For traders new to the NoNonsense Forex Algo Tester, this will be a good starting point. And you can easily change and swap out parts, rules, all that stuff very easily if you want to focus on a different data set. If you want to see profit factor over your win rate, go for it. If you want to focus on drawdown over your profit factor, do it. Nothing's stopping you. One thing to add, if you are a new trader and you are not forward testing anything yet, I suggest you watch a series and then use the algo at the end of it and forward test it on a demo account. People get stuck back testing for months trying to find that perfect combination of indicators or a great C1, and then when it comes time to actually start making trades in demo at the same time every day, you either aren't comfortable with the process or you haven't even had a broker picked out yet. Trading the daily chart means that 20 minutes before that candle closes, you are looking at your charts, and you need to make sure that you've got the time for it. So start on it now. All right, so starting off at the C1 indicator. The C1 indicator, a lot of people get stuck on this one, and there's really no need to. You'll almost always find a better indicator at some point as long as you keep looking. But you got to say to yourself at one point, this indicator is giving me good results. Let's move forward with it. And then when I have an algo and I'm ready and I'm already forward testing, now it's time to start going back and trying to find a better C1. So let's take a look at a C1 that is a little simpler to read and to change the settings on, the FXSniper. Now, for the C1, we're really after one thing on this, win rate. But it's not that simple. If you only get 10 trades on a pair over 3 years, then your sample size, in my opinion, is a little bit too low. Plus, when you add the other aspects of the algo in, the amount of trades it will take drop down drastically. We need a healthy mix of trades and win rate to really make this work. And most of the time, from what I can see, the profit amount is a healthy mix of both. But you still need to use a little bit of common sense and your own intuition when you pick which settings you want to go with. The highest profit isn't always going to have the highest win rate, and the highest win rate isn't always going to have the highest profit. What I look for in a C1 is typically something that's fast to medium speed. Then when it comes time to the C2, I tend to lean a little bit towards medium and slow. So let's load up the indicator on the chart and see what it looks like. For any new indicator I use, I'm always going to throw it up on the chart to see what settings make a difference in the signals and by how much. All right then, let's go ahead and start looking for that C1 indicator. I am on my Forex server. I'm in the YouTube one linked clone that I made specifically for this. We're going to open up Oanda, and we're going to go over the settings that I'm going to use. First thing, the date. Make sure it's going back 3 years. That's typically the amount that I like to test. Right off the bat is 3 years. Spread 30, period daily, optimization checked. We're going to go to expert properties. One thing I'll say is that we are using 15.68 version of the NoNonsense Forex Algo tester. Whenever a new tester comes out in a new version, no matter what, I always hit that reset button, turn everything to, my typical default settings, and anytime I create a new algo, or I won't use the load feature anymore, because loads from different versions may cause issues with settings, and I just don't want to mess with it. So I just start over every single time we get a new EA version. All right. So we're using the C1 signal. ATR, I put it to 14. It automatically defaults to that. You don't have to change that. Let's scroll on down and we'll go through some of these settings. From what you can see, I've gone through and marked everything to false. That's your entries, your rules, exits, pretty much everything. ATR for TP 1.0, stop loss 1.5. Going down here, risk percentage 2%. And then first order risk percentage. When looking for the C1, we want to change that value from 50 to 100. Basically what this means is that instead of opening up 2 trades, each with half the risk totaling 2%, it's just going to be 1 trade at 2% if you hit your stop loss, and that's what we want to do. Everything else down here, I just leave to default. Don't read anything into the settings right here. One of the versions that just came out has an export to CSV feature. I haven't even messed around with it, to be completely honest. I want to make sure that I get through this video series with the foundation that I laid using Google Sheets before I even start looking into all that stuff. But I will tell you that there is a lot of data that you can go through in this, and a lot of different on-tester settings depending on how you want to look. It's really, or what data you want to look at. It's really cool. Everything else. The other thing I do is I turn off the stop tester on warning and stop tester on error. I just leave that off. All right. So first thing that we're going to want to do is start looking at a C1. I've already got one in mind. The one we're going to be using is FXSniper VS. If I can find it. I've probably glazed over it 3 times by now. There it is. Nope. There it is. All right. So, first, let's take a look at the indicator. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to run visual mode real quick. Turn this off. Hit start. You could load it up on the chart. Sometimes I just do this because it's quicker and easier. Here we go. So FXSniper pretty much sums it up. Line crosses over the 0 line, and that's a buy. This is a sell. Normally what I will like to do when I'm looking at an indicator is go through. Let's see what we got here. Pretty easy one. CCI period, T3 period, and this right here. Most of the time, whenever I see anything that has like a 0.618 or a 0.3, 0.5, stuff like that, I tend to just kind of leave them as is, so I'm not even going to mess with that. We can change this to 40, close. Looks like a significant change. Let's go back, take a look again. Let's just change this to 100 for fun. Yep. All right. Go back to indicators, back here. I'm going to hit that reset. And then let's see what T3 period does. Let me bring it back real quick. So let's change that to 6. Little bit of difference. Let's go ahead and change it to 10. A little bit of difference again. So it looks like the T3 period isn't changing stuff too much. I get a lot of questions as to how I figure out like what settings I want to change and what range I want to go to. Typically for your main thing that's going to make your signals move, if it's a lower number like 14, I'm just going to do 1 through 100. If you want to do less passes, I would say stick it around, you know, maybe 10 to 30 on this. Keep it tight around the default settings. You don't want to do too crazy. But I'll explain why I do 1 through 100 for the first one. And then any secondary ones that look like this, I'll typically try to keep it close to this. I'll kind of go out of it a little bit here, and I'm going to set the input 2 to 1 through 10 for this. So let me cancel and close out of here. Bring this back up to the top. And we need to input the main C1. So I'm going to open up Chrome, back testing here. This is the, if you haven't gone through the manual and all these settings, read through the manual. It's always good to read through the manual on all this stuff because most of your questions can pretty much be answered. So Control F, I'm going to type in sniper, and there we go. Settings recommended 21.5 0.618. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to paste it. From when we were looking at it before, we already know that the first one we want to do our main one. That'll be input 1. And the second one will be input 2. So what did he put? 21 and 5. For input 1, you don't have to. I normally just put the value as the default just so I know off the bat. We want to check both of these, and we're going to do start of 1, step of 1, stop at 100. And we'll get to why I'm doing this when we look at the finished data. For input number 2, I'm going to do 1, step of 1, and we're just going to go to number 10 on that. So when we look down here at the active entries and rules, notice how the standard entry is false, but yet, you know, how can that be? We ran visual mode, and we are clearly showing indicators, but I turned that off. Not all the rules apply. You've got to look on the website. Let's see. Configuration. Entry rules. This kind of goes through everything. One candle rule. Baseline entry. Standard entry. all that stuff. So if you don't know, you really got to read through all this stuff. So for peace of mind, if you want to turn standard entry to true, turn it to true. The one thing that we're not doing is I am not taking exits. So one thing you guys are probably going to notice is that for a C1, I typically don't like to do the whole chalk up thing. If you want to, go ahead. There's nothing stopping you from doing it. You can take this process and add whatever rules you want to use or don't want to use and build your algo that way. For the C1, I typically turn it off because a lot of times there's just too many signals, and I just kind of did it and never really looked back. I know a lot of you guys use chalk ups, and more power to you. So anytime we get a long signal, it's going to run until it either hits take profit or stop loss. There's none of this right here where it's, okay, it's long. Now I get a short signal, so that trade closes, and then a short one opens, and then this one goes long, so that trade closes, and then you open up a long. It's just going to go on the first signal, run, ignore all the other signals that it gets as long as the trade is open, and that's the way I kind of like to test with a C1. Good. So let's close out of this, bring this guy back up, and what we're going to do is we are going to run it. I'm going to open up my blank pass, delete this real quick. So make a copy, and naming is really important for me. So typically when I'm looking for a C, it's just C dash FXSniper 17 to 19. And then when I look for the second confirmation, it'll be CC. BCC when baseline comes in, CCV, CCV, E. You get the idea. So what we're going to do is C, FXSniper 17 to 19, hit OK. It's going to take a little while to load. Make sure this is good. Yep. And I'm going to hit my magic button, and that's it. It's going to run in the background. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the results right here. So right off the bat, the reason why I did 1 through 100, even though I try to go for something that's a little bit faster for a C1, and I know that the higher the number, the less trades you're going to get. You can see the numbers just kind of start dropping off, is because it corresponds with the pass number. So 1 through 100, where input 2 is set to 1, and then 101 to 200, input 2 will be set to 2, 2 to 300, input 2 will be set to 3. So that's kind of why I do this. So that way I can look and see right off the bat, input 1, good, not great. Setting input 2 to 2, better results, definitely. Number 3, tapers off a little bit less. Number 4, and well, you get the idea, so on and so forth. So once we have all this data, I will typically go over here, sort Z to A for the win rate. It's going to take a little bit of time to process. Okay, so when we sort by win rate, your win rate, the highest one is not always going to be the highest profit total. It just happens to work out for this pair. Let's just say that wasn't there. You'd see that 64.96 was 7,000 and 64.44 was 11.1. I don't know about you, but I'd rather trade this one. It's kind of a go by feel. in my opinion. I like to see a healthy mix of a high win rate, a high amount of total trades, and a good profit total. And normally profit total gives you that healthy balance between the two of these. So most of the time I just kind of go by profit total. So bringing this one back here, 15,000 past 530. Looks pretty good to me. 911 trades. This basically means that there's about 32 and a half trades per pair over the course of 3 years, which is pretty healthy. Anytime, a lot of times you'll kind of see a high win rate, maybe in the 70s. I mean, hell, sometimes even in the 80s, but the average trade is going to be like 2 or 3. And that's something you typically don't want to go to, especially for a C1, because once you add in all the other parts of the algo, you're going to probably end up with 0 trades. All right, so 530 is what I like. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to A to Z. It's going to take forever. All right, so I sorted by pass, A to Z. I'm going to go to 530. And typically what I want to do is I just want to take a look, and this is one of the reasons why I like to do step of 1 at least for the C1 indicator, because if this was 15.7 and that means this is going to be input 2 equals 6 and input 1 is going to be 30. So each one of these is 30, 29, 28, 27, 26, so on and so forth. If it's a step of 1 and your indicator is at a setting of 30 shows this, and you change it to 29, and let's say it was something more along the lines of 2.8, 1, or even a negative number, I would not go with that indicator. Mainly because that one little point is enough to just throw it over the edge and give you completely different results. So this is what I kind of like to see. I feel like if I was to set it anywhere between 27 and 33, that I would get a decent amount of good signals. Even the win rate isn't too bad for a C1 in there. So 530 is what I want to focus on. 530 is good. But when we go forward, we kind of want to set a little bit of a range. So what we're going to actually do is use 20 to 40. You could narrow it down if you want. I just try to keep it in groups of like 5 or 10 or so. So I'm just going to do input 1 set to 20 to 40. So let's see. I'm going to grab this. I'm going to Control C to copy it. All right, so what I did to keep everything organized was I created a sort of master sheet to where I can throw up any C1, C2s, everything throughout the process, and just copy and paste my favorite passes, I guess you could say. I do more than one if I like more than one pass, and I can compare them a little bit easier between each other. So I'm going to just go Control-Shift-V. That'll paste the data without the formulas in it. Indicator or indicators, FXSniper, and I will do a link. Copy that over there. And for the settings, we already looked at it. We know we want input 1 to equal 20 to 40 step of 1. And then for input 2, we want that to equal 5. Or is it 6? Let's take a look, because I don't think I went over that. So let's scroll on down to 530. All right, 530. Okay, yes. Input 2 is equal to 6. And this corresponds with the second round of numbers. So, yeah, we're going to do 20 through 40 and input number 6. So that way, when I go back and check any of them, I kind of know where I want to at least start at without having to click on the link and go back every single time. And I'll throw a screenshot up here real quick. As you can see on this, everything's pretty much blurred out because I don't want you to see everything I've done, but you should have a pretty full list of C1 indicators and beyond by the time you're done with everything and have a good algo. I would say as long as you're getting somewhere above 65%, you can go ahead and start looking into a C2. If you don't want to get caught in the loop of constantly trying to find something better, because then you're just never going to move forward. I've done that. I know a bunch of other people who have done that, to where you get something that's 66%, and you're like, oh, I think I can just get that extra 0.5, and you just keep going and going and going, tweaking and tweaking, and just end up getting stuck. The goal is to at least be forward testing an algo sooner rather than later, so that way you have a baseline of what to beat, and that's pretty much the goal of this series. So we got our FXSniper. We know what we're doing here. It is time to start looking into a C2. Okay, so originally I was planning on putting this video out with the C1 and the C2 as well, but the long intro I did has pushed us into the 30-minute mark. So to make things simple, the C2 video will be separate. It's going to be published at the same time as this one, so there's no delay. You can jump straight into it from here. Before you go, we do have a Discord server that was created for NoNonsense Forex Algo testers. There is a link in the video description down below, and as you can see, we've got some general talk. We talk about the individual indicators that we can find, psychology. There is a tech support area. If you're having issues, we can try to help out, and this goes for VMs as well as the NoNonsense Forex Algo tester. We try to help out everyone in here, as well as we have a verified testers area, to where if you do own the NoNonsense Forex Algo tester, you can register with the Discord server and gain access to all these areas. So the last bit is that you don't have to own the software. You can just jump in if you have general questions, if you want to see if this is a good fit for you. Just ask any of us here in any of these channels, and we'd be happy to help you out. So that's it. Go on over to the next video.